Okay, today we're going to be working on the internet revolution. So diving in a little bit because we are focusing more in our projects on our websites and the creative aspect. Yesterday we went over the data aspect for our final project. So once I put the notes up, you'll have the notes for the data side and everything that you'll need to do your market research for your final project. And today we're going to go a little bit into the creative side to understand why our websites are so important and to help you improve your creative side to the final project in your website. So as we work on our websites, we have to understand the importance of an online presence to really understand why this is necessary for a business. So I doubt that we'll have time to hit all of these. And so I only did a couple of these for class today, but we'll go over eventually in other classes. We'll go over all these sections. They're all extremely important. So especially CRM, consumer relations marketing. But today we're going to talk about outreach, a little bit of advertising and brand awareness, and some brand image. All right. So first we need to look at some stats. So data right here. Going into the creative side, and we're still looking at stats. But it's important because then we understand how crucial it is to have an online presence. So in April of 2020, 4.57 billion users were active online, which is 59% of the global population. So a huge amount of people are online fairly often. Just in the month of April, more than half of the globe, half the world's population was online. So that's a huge market right there. If you have a physical store only, maybe you can reach the people within 100 miles of you. If you're online, then you're connected to more than half the world's population in terms of people that you can sell to. So that's pretty huge right there. 68% of Americans use Facebook primarily, and on average, people spend around 2 hours daily on Facebook. So that also right there, just on one social media site, that is a huge amount of people who spend a fair bit of time looking through that social media site. So if you're thinking about trying to find a way to sell on Facebook, Facebook has a huge outreach, right? We have 68% of people right here. And then they spend a decent amount of time. That's tantamount to going to the store and spending 2 hours just walking around the store, right? So, and then 78% of Facebook users go on Facebook to find new products or services. So people are actually actively going on Facebook. 78% of them go on for around 2 hours to spend looking for new products or services, looking to shop on Facebook. All right. And then YouTube, right? Now, why would YouTube be important? Well, number one, it's the number one downloaded app as of late. I'd have to check, but I think this was in 2019, it was the number one downloaded app globally with 1.8 billion unique monthly visits. So that means that a unique visit is to say, if you were to go onto YouTube, let's say twice in a month, you would only count as one visit. So that means that there were 1.8 billion people who went on. Not how many times they visited YouTube. They may have visited somewhere between 10, 20, 30 times each, but 1.8 billion individuals went on YouTube at least once every month. And the final most important stat is 96% of Americans shop online at least once a year. And that is a very, very important stat for what we're going to call e-commerce, meaning shopping online. because that says that just in the American market alone, forget the fact that more than half the world uses the internet very frequently. Forget that, but 96% of Americans, so if you're only looking to sell in America, a majority of Americans shop online at least once a year. So that's a huge market. And going back to the 4.57 billion active users, right now, Google has around 87% of the market share globally, meaning that 87% of these people who are online did Google searches. So advertising on Google, selling on Google can reach you 87% of 4.57 billion users every month if you use SEO correctly and you advertise correctly. So these are arguments for why an online presence, or for why online presences can capture larger audiences. Let's talk about a reason why an online presence is an absolute must. So there's this idea in marketing called showrooming. This was a fairly recent idea. It only came around in like the past decade or two. So it's more or less new in the marketing world. A decade or two is pretty young for marketing. And showrooming is, here's the definition of it. It's pretty much the concept of going into a store, a physical store, to try and find something that you are going to eventually buy online. So the technical definition is the act of examining goods in a brick and mortar store, but making the actual purchase online. So you go into the store, whether it's to just look around or to try on, if it's a clothing store, to try on clothes, try on shoes, test out equipment or whatever in store, with the intention of then turning around and going online. So just a quick description right here. It says brick and mortar. Brick and mortar is, I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but just a clarifying example. A brick and mortar is just the idea of a physical store. So brick and mortar being the way that you build a store with bricks and mortar to seal the bricks together. So it's just talking about physical stores. So whenever you hear the term brick and mortar, that just means we're talking about a physical store or a physical location where you're selling stuff versus online. So 48% of people who showroom use physical stores to research products with no intention of buying. So a fair bit of people go into stores with no intention of buying any products in the store. They only go to research it, right? So, for example, if you're looking for nice clothing, the majority of people seem to, or at least a near majority of showroomers go into a store with the intention of only trying on clothes, if they're going into a clothing store, only trying on these clothes so that they can test and see how it fits, and then going back home and buying online. Well, that kind of seems a little bit strange, because if you find some clothes and you like them, you'd assume that you would want to buy it in store, right? Or if you find some clothes online, why not just buy it online, test it out, and if it doesn't fit, send it back? Well, in some studies, it was shown, and I know this is a lot of statistics here, a lot of percentages, so bear with me. In studies, it was shown that 72% of people say that the reason why they showroom was because the price was better. And we could talk about why in a second, but first I want to go into some highly susceptible industries for showrooming. So consumer electronics, so like TVs, cell phones, computers, monitors, laptops, 63% of all of their shoppers end up showrooming. So going into whatever store sells consumer electronics, testing them out, holding them, looking at their stats, right? And all they do is they look at them and that's it. Then they go home and they'll buy it at home. Clothing and apparel and accessories. So whether that's shoes, shirts, shorts, glasses, jewelry, like earrings, 43%. And then finally, books, 29%. So presumably you go into like a bookstore and you just pick up a book and start reading, and then you order online. So all of these are huge industries. And the majority of these people, like we said, have no intention when they go in. They have no intention of buying any of these products in store. And that's a huge problem for the companies themselves, because they have these stores, right? They have locations and they need their locations to be funded. They need to pay their rents and they need to pay their property taxes and all that. And if they're not getting money, then what happens is corporate is going to close them down. If they see that a location isn't getting enough traffic, then they close it down, right? And the issue is maybe they are getting plenty of traffic. It's just all of the traffic, meaning, but when I say traffic, I mean people coming in and out of the store, hopefully buying a lot. But maybe they're getting a lot of traffic. The issue is that traffic only goes into showroom, and then the location has nothing to show in its sales to say, yes, we are worth your time and your investment. All right, so why is it better to buy online for people? Well, there are two main problems. First is it's a physical space, and second is that space is very limited in physical locations. So let's talk about first. When we talk about the first one, a brick and mortar store has a lot of associated costs with it. And those associated costs we call overhead. So everything that is more or less accounted for in the upkeep of the building, right? The maintenance of the building. So we've got property taxes, we've got store maintenance, and in store maintenance, we need cleaning supplies, people who are going to be cleaning. You know, we need to hire janitors. We need to pay for electricity, pay for running water, pay for renovations of our supplies or our stock of inventory or our machines that we use, like our cash registers or our cameras or whatever we use to stock our products. Machine maintenance. So any kind of machine that you see, like in Home Depot, they have a lot of these machines to stock the wood on the shelves because it's pretty heavy, like or other products, right? So the machine maintenance or anything else like if you have some heavy duty cleaners, you need, or even trucks to deliver and send out packages and products. So all of these are, and much more, are under overhead. And the overhead has to be paid for in some way. And it's very expensive, right? But it needs to be paid for in some way. So how do we pay for the overhead? Where does that money come from? Well, it comes from what's called cost allocation. So for an example, let's say you were making, you had a lemonade stand, right? And you went out to the store and you bought $20 worth of lemons. Those are your raw materials. And each cup of lemonade that you make is going to use a certain amount of those lemons. So let's say you want to make some really, really, really lemony lemonade, and you used $5 worth of lemons in each batch. So we got $5 worth of lemons in the first batch, the second batch, the third batch, and the fourth batch. And then product creation. So you're not just gonna throw lemons in a jug and then call it a day, right? That's not making lemonade. So it takes a little bit to make the lemonade, whether you just squeeze the lemons right in there or you add water and mix it in, or you add sugar to it. Whatever your secret family recipe is to make the lemonade, there is more associated costs with the actual creation, aside from your labor. But since we're doing just a lemonade stand, we're probably not going to add labor to it. And so let's look at that for just right now. Not the machine costs. I'll get to that in a second. Normally, your associated costs would only be the amount of lemons you use in your product and your final product creation, right? So each batch would hold, let's say each batch is a jug of lemonade. It would hold $5.50 worth of lemonade. And then you would have to raise it a certain percentage to get profit, right? Because if you just sold each batch of lemonade, each jug of lemonade for $5.50, and you shift that out per cup, right? You figure out how many cups are in each one of these jugs, and then you split the cost right there into each one of the cups. If you only sold it for that, then you would just break even. You need to sell it for a profit. But anyway, so the base cost to you, the base cost for each jug of lemonade that you make is $5.50. Now, let's say you get a machine that makes the process go a lot faster, right? So you can pump out more jugs of lemonade, and the machine costs you $20. Well, you have to pay that $20 in some way, right? Like that 20 isn't going to come out of nowhere and just, be paid for by itself. No, you need to pay for it in some way. And if we're assuming that you're starting from zero, what happens then is the machine cost gets allocated, meaning spread throughout each one of the jugs that you make. So if you only make 4 jugs right here, if you only make 4 jugs of lemonade, then you have to spread that cost throughout each one of them so that the profit that you make from each one of these products pays at the end of the day for the machine. So if you spread it out and said, all right, I'm going to raise the cost of each jug of lemonade $5, and you only make 4 of them, then, or if you only make 4 of them, you'd need to allocate $5 from each jug. But then you'd have to raise your cost $5. So it wouldn't be $5.50. Each jug would be $10.50, right? And that would go then into the cost of your cups. So the cost of this machine is spread in each cup that you sell, right? Because the cost of each product you sell, or of each jug you sell, goes up to $10.50, which means the final product, each cup of lemonade, goes up a set amount. And the more jugs you make, right? If instead of 4, I made this, 8 products, all of this times 2, then instead of it being $5 that you would have to allocate, there would be 8 jugs that you make. So instead of 5, it'd be 2.5. So $2.50. And the more jugs of lemonade you make, the easier it is to pay off and to shrink the price of this machine, right? So cost allocation. So let's go back up here. How does that fit in? Well, all this overhead right here, all of that goes into the cost of selling any products, because they need to pay for the property taxes. They need to pay for the store maintenance. They need to pay for the machine maintenance and all other associated costs that it takes to run a physical space. So they need to pay for that. And the way that they pay for it is they allocate that into the final price of each product. So the more products they sell, the more that they can spread out the cost of it so it doesn't hurt too much to pay for, right? It doesn't make the price too high for the consumer. So they want to sell more, so it spreads the cost throughout, and so that they can pay for their physical space, and it's not too much of a cost to the customer. But don't be fooled. Like the cost of each product that they sell at the store isn't just the cost of the raw materials and then the cost of the labor. No, it's the cost of the raw materials, the labor, and all of the overhead spread throughout each one of the products. So when you buy a product, you're really helping them pay for the raw materials, all of their maintenance, well, we can say all of their overhead, and their labor. And then on top of that, they need to make a profit. Now, let's go over to a virtual store. In a virtual store, right, we would still need to find a way to make a profit. We'd still need to pay for raw materials, but our overhead is not there. So there is a huge cost, right? All of this is very expensive. Like I said before, there is a huge cost in the overhead that is now being eliminated. So we don't have to pay for overhead when we run a virtual store because we don't have a physical location. We don't need the property taxes. We don't need any maintenance, or if we do, it's very little. And same with the store maintenance, the machine maintenance, and the labor, right? The labor even is going to be a lot smaller because maybe with a virtual store, you only need a couple people. You don't need to pay for janitors. You don't need to pay for cashiers. You don't need to pay for the salaries of people who walk around and help direct you throughout the store. So two major costs right here, your labor and your overhead, are effectively shut down. And so all you pay for when you buy a product virtually, all you're paying for is the raw materials and the profit that the people want to take out of that. And of course, there's a little bit of overhead. I'm not saying all overhead's gone. Like they have to pay for shipping, they have to pay for packaging and handling and all that. But comparative to a physical space, the overhead is very, very small. It is minimized. And same with the labor, because obviously these don't disappear. The labor is still there. Like there is still somebody who has to run the business. You still need accountants and all that, but all that physical labor that we were talking about in the store, the managers of the store, the cashiers, the helpful directors that walk around the store and help customer service and all that. All of the major costs, the most common costs of both of these are gone, right? We don't need to pay for those anymore. So if we're talking, if we give a little graphic about it, if we say we've got all these costs, up here is profit, we've got overhead, we've got labor, we've got raw materials, and then we've got shipping and handling. These two costs are taken out. So effectively what you can do is you can have the same profit, the same raw materials, and the same shipping and handling costs, and you can sell it for that much cheaper when it's online versus when it's in person. So that's the first problem with physical space, and that's why 72% of people say that they shop online instead, because it's cheaper, and it's cheaper for the stores too. So the problem is when we have showrooming, right? With showrooming, many people still go into the physical stores. So physical stores are necessary because a lot of people go in to do research, and it's the statistics aren't fully out yet as far as I know, but it is guessed that, or educated guess, that if you cut out your stores, if you stop having physical locations, then these people will most likely stop buying from you online, right? Because they first go to you to research and then they buy online. So if they don't have you to research, then they're going to go somewhere else to try on their products, right? Because they want the showrooming. They want to feel what the product is like in real life and then buy it for cheaper. So the problem here is we've got these physical stores that less and less people want to go into with showrooming and buying online. less and less people want to go into them. So they're not making nearly as much money as going virtual. But the problem is, if you stop doing that, if you stop having the physical store, then your expertise and the ability for people to come in, talk with the experts, and then try it on themselves, the physical aspect is going to make you lose money because you don't have a physical space for people to try it on. All right. Second problem, space is very limited. So when we're talking in store, right, there is a set amount of space that you have, right? You're in a building with 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. There's a set amount of space that you have. And in that building, right, there is a set amount of shelves you have. There's a set amount of inventory that you can fit into a building, right? So it's very hard to run a physical store versus a virtual store when it comes to inventory, because physical stores have physical limits. Once you've reached capacity, that's all you can do. You can't fit any more inventory into your store. And then there's the opportunity costs, right? Then you have to factor in what products you want to sell. Because if you can only fit a certain amount of products into your store, then you have to decide which products you're going to stock and which products you just can't. And that right there is an example of you having opportunity costs versus being online, having a virtual store. We can go back to the idea of the different types of economies. This is having online is kind of more of a on demand, the service economy. The physical store would probably be more of, an industrial era service economy mix, right? So it's a much older style, and we've been moving more and more with the service and the experience economy towards a virtual selling experience. And there are problems with going virtual, like we've been talking about with showrooming. But that's why you've been probably seeing more and more attempts to be able to sell online and not have any problems with the physical aspect. Like you've probably been seeing a lot of pulls towards people using AR or augmented reality, or virtual reality, one of those two, which is pretty much, if I think on Amazon, they have examples of this, but if you go on Amazon and you're looking at buying, let's say, a table for your room, what Amazon does is they have this feature where you can click on the table and then turn on your camera, and then you can point the camera towards your room, and then on your phone, you will see what the table would look like in your room. Like that Amazon tries to insert it into your camera with augmented reality, virtual reality, and give you an experience of what it would be like in your room. That right there is an attempt to showroom, right? To have some sense of a physical space that you can test out or research products without actually having the associated cost of a physical store. So there have been attempts to try and move things more online and try to avoid the problems of physical stores. As of now, people still like the physical space. But anyway, going back to space is limited. With an online experience, what you have is you don't have any physical inventory, right? You don't need to store your products anywhere specifically. So when a customer orders a product, all you have to do is you can ship it out, right? You have unlimited space because you're not storing it anywhere physical. The customer orders it online and you can ship it to them from the manufacturer. So you can have as many products as you want to sell. You can put as many products in your virtual shelves as you want. Whereas in a physical store, they have a limited amount of places of spaces that they can store products to sell. So maybe in a physical store, they have 30 different types of soaps, that you can buy. Whereas in a virtual store, you have effectively unlimited choices. Well, the choices are only limited by how many soap sellers there are in the world, right? And that's a crazy amount. So there is far more availability of products in an online and virtual environment. So space is effectively unlimited. All right. So this gets into the idea of how do we attract online buyers? Because everything is so, as we're saying, everything is so important to have an online presence, because a physical store isn't always up to snuff, right? We can't just stop at a physical store. Having a virtual store is going to reach that huge market that we're talking about. It's going to reach that huge market, attract a lot more customers from all over the globe. And our advertising, if we advertise in a way that reaches out to more people, if we use SEO properly, which we'll talk about later on in the course, if we use SEO properly, if we follow all the important steps of having an online presence, then we can attract a lot more people, and our business will do effectively a lot more better because we have a larger market to reach. So how do we reach that larger market? Well, I put down 4 main steps. First, make your site easy to use. If you have a navigable site, if we can look through your site and easily find everything that we need, if I can look through your site and find all of my products wherever I want them, when I need them, if I can find the history of your company, research a little bit of who you are and what you sell. If I can go and find my shopping cart with ease, if I can add and take things out of my shopping cart with ease, if I can, if your website is fast and speedy and it's not slow and frustrating to use, the more easy or the easier it is for me to use your website, the more likely I am going to buy. Because if it's something that's extremely frustrating for me to use, if I can't get through your website with an amount of ease and the minimal amount of frustration possible, then it's just not worth my time, right? So if we're going to try and avoid that physical store issue, we're going to try and avoid the problems that you have in a physical location, then we need to have an ease of access for all of our customers. All right. The second thing, use clear images. So I know a couple of you guys have been having problems with getting your images very clear on your website. Well, clear images are very important. If you have a clear image on your website, then it's far more likely that people are going to look at your website and get a sense that it is very professional. So if you have very choppy or blurry pixelated images, then it sets a poor tone for your website and doesn't give a sense of professional cleanliness and a good presentation. Because when we get into the psychology behind having a good website, people want to know that the place that they're going for their products is a place that has a certain level of experience and quality. And the experience and quality are displayed in how your website or how your physical store is organized. If you have a very dirty or messy and unorganized physical store, the likelihood that people are going to take you as an expert in your field is very low, because people have a perception that experts in their field know exactly how and in what ways to best organize their store, and they know their products in and out. So you want to be able to show that you are a very trustworthy source for all of your materials, right? For all of the products that you're going to sell. All right. Next, have strong CTAs. So CTA is not exactly the red line or the brown line, you know, in Chicago, or the metro. CTA in marketing stands for calls to action. So calls to action. So a call to action is a way of trying to get your customer to purchase something, right? So it is you making a firm statement to your customer to buy a product or to buy a service, right? So a call to action could be something like email us now or buy this product, right? It is a statement saying what the consumer should do, but it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to purchasing a product. If you want people to look deeper into certain parts of your website, or if you want them to email you to ask you about products or just to connect with you, even saying something like follow us on Instagram is a call to action, because you are trying to lead the consumer to down a certain path to learn more about your site, with the hopes of eventually them purchasing a product. So you always want to have your consumer following a certain trail or just understanding where the flow of your website is going. You want to have a very clean, clear path for them to take. And your call to action is important, because if they don't have a clear understanding of your website, your company, or any aspects of your selling, like maybe you're trying to show them in your call to action on a different page that you have a sale or there's new products out or something like that. You want to be able to help them navigate your website by telling them where to go or telling them what to do if they want to have the best experience with your website and your company possible. So having strong calls to action helps direct your consumer to a more important part of your website. And then lastly, we haven't talked about this a lot in our website building, but this is probably one of the most important things for you to have when we're talking about online experiences. So a huge percentage, I should have gotten the statistic, but I didn't, but a huge percentage of traffic that we were talking about, online traffic, comes from mobile devices. And one issue that you can bump into is when you go onto a website with your computer, a website can be perfectly fine. But if that company did not think of creating a website specifically tailored to mobile devices and mobile traffic, then you going onto your to a website with your phone versus going onto a website with your laptop is going to be a completely different experience. If they only tailor it to a laptop, the screen size and shape of your phone is a lot different, obviously. So it's going to be a completely different experience, and it'll probably most likely be a terrible experience for you if you're trying to look through their website on your phone. So being aware of mobile traffic is very important to understand, where and how people are going to approach viewing things on your site. So I wanted to take the last 15 minutes or so of class to actually show you guys a little bit about how I go about gathering the data for the class, right? To show you where I go for these statistics, how to approach this, because I know you guys are facing up the market research side of your final project. And I know personally it was something when I first started, and I think I've told you guys this a little bit already, but just to say it again, the first time you go into market research, it might be like a little confusing on like where to go and how to get things done. So I wanted to take the last little bit of class to go through a little bit of research and how I go about doing it. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn back on my video for now. And we can go through this together. So let me pull up the sites that I use. So this is going to look a little bit daunting because I've got a ton of sites pulled up right now, but here we go. So when we start with market research, right? There are a ton of sites that are very, very helpful. So for me, if I want to learn anything specifically about marketing, HubSpot is a very, very good online marketing site. So, so when it comes to things like examples for things that I talk about in class, so that last part that I just talked about, having a strong call to action, making your site easy to use, clear images, and mobile traffic, all of those things are things that are talked about a fair bit in marketing and things that I've heard about in my classes, right? So maybe all of this research that you do is going to be something that's intuitive for you and very easy to understand. Like maybe you've taken it in classes before, but it's also good to just look through it because these guys are, they're much smarter than I am, let's say. So, and I'm sure that you guys will find that it's very good for you to look through some of this research, even if you feel that you know a fair bit about it. Like if you, for your case, if you think that you know markets in Chicago and you know your community, you know the area that you live in, it might be easy for you to say yeah, I don't really need to do all that much research. I know the consumer profile of the people around me already, so I don't need to do all this research. Well, I've taken classes on digital marketing before and marketing online, but it's extremely good to look at this stuff because they put it in a very clear and concise way and they give great explanations. So it's important to, even if you feel like you know research, to go back and to even just read through a little bit of research to fully understand the topic that you want to talk about before diving into it. So HubSpot for things like marketing, really great. And Pew Research Center. I put this on the list of places that you guys could go for general demographic data. Pew Research Center and Statistica. I've got these two right here. Statistica and Pew Research Center are really great, like I said, for general statistics or general demographic research. I would not personally, when I do research on stuff like this, I use them today for the beginning of class. We talked a lot about the statistics on web traffic and who, the amount of daily active users, right? Numbers in the billions. It's crazy. And here's the amount of unique, we're talking about unique mobile internet users. So there's 4.57 billion active internet users and 4.2 billion mobile internet users, which is why it's so important with your websites to have a mobile mindset and have a mobile side to your website that's tailored specifically for phones, because there are so many people out there using their phones to go on the internet. But anyway, so Statistica, I would not suggest just using their site, just typing in up here, any questions that you want. What I would suggest is just going on to Google. Let me pull up a new tab. Going on to Google and typing in, if we're talking about mobile internet traffic, then we can just obviously type in and most likely, there's going to be a lot, you guys know Google, there's a lot of sites that come up, but looking specifically for Statistica and Pew Research Center, they are really great and very clear. very clear websites that you can use to describe it. And so it makes it very nice and easy to look at. So that's Pew Research Center, that's Statistica. I also wanted to show you Claritas. So this is the website that I was telling you for psychographic data and also a little bit of demographic data. It's very interesting to use. So they pretty much do everything by zip code. So what you do when you look up the data that you need, you go into Claritas and they give you pretty much, they talk about it right here, like cultural behaviors, lifestyles, demographics, and all of that. So let me see if I haven't used it in a while, so I want to see where we can go with it. All right, there we go. Claritas 360. All right, so you go to Claritas 360, do zip code lookup. Let's say, what's a good zip code in Chicago to use? Anyone want to give me their zip code real quick?
60647.
60647. All right, let's try this out. 60647. All right, so what Claritas has is a bunch of different segments. What they do is they try and set up a huge amount. I don't know exactly how many they have, but they have a huge amount of segments that they split people into. And when they talk about the different people in a certain zip code or a certain region, they just throw the types of segments that are in the area into the demographics. So down here it shows mainly people in Daniel's region are younger. There's a fair bit in their demographic that are focused on their families. They have like mid-scale, middle-aged family mix. So it shows you like their income range. It shows you how many people live in the house, how many people are married, with children, without children, population by age. So there's a huge population in Daniel's area that are middle-aged, 25 to 34. Shows you population by race and ethnicity, right? And then you can go to social groups, and it tells you the different types like urban, suburban, second cities, town, and rural. Obviously, since this is in Chicago, all of it's urban. You can click on the specific demographic, and if this loads, it'll bring up. So I clicked on the family one, the one that I was talking about that had a middle-aged family mix. And it'll tell you their lifestyle, the places that they like to eat, where they shop. This brings up pretty much a customer demographic for you for a region. So these people who live like this they live mainly in urban places, mid-scale income. They are, under the age of 55. They family mix. It's a mix of home ownership versus renting. They give you the top 5 counties of where you can find this demographic the most. And yeah, so it shows you an insane amount of data on these specific types of people. So it's very interesting to use. It is extremely helpful for you to understand your customer profile. And down here, your psychographics, right? Just look at this. This is insane. It tells you what type of car they own, like what TV they watch, listens to Spanish adult hits, like interested in Mexican League soccer. Daniel, would you say that there's a fair bit of people in your area who this description would fit?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. It's weird to look at that and just see that like they can describe a whole area in just laid out terms like that. But anyway, so this will be very helpful for you when you're coming up with your consumer profile. So if I wanted to sell to people like this, then I could look at this map and say, all right, I'm specifically trying to target younger families with some college who, have all of these traits. And then I could look on the map and find out where those people tend to live. Or on the other hand, I could say, I want to target Daniel's area. I want to target Logan Square and, his zip code. Well, then I could look at this and understand who I'm trying to target, So Claritas, very, very helpful for looking things up. I think for all of this, anything outside the snapshot, you need Claritas Premium. Yeah. So it goes into far deeper detail, but this part of Claritas is plenty. It's all that you'll need, and it's free. So that's pretty nice. And then, all right, lastly, I want to show you Google Trends and how to look stuff up on Google Trends. So what's a good topic right now? What's something that interests you guys? Just list off 2 or 3 things.
Video games, sports.
Any video games in particular?
Doesn't matter.
All right, so video games. And then we'll do sports. Let's say Chicago Cubs. All right. And then let's take out video games and do something that's similar to the Cubs. So let's go Chicago Cubs and Chicago White Sox. All right. So what Google Trends does is it shows interest over time for the very first part. And interest over time comes from how many people are searching this up on Google, right? So every time somebody searches a phrase in Google, then Google will record it and track that over time. So you can see, you can change up the time zone here. You can make it longer. You can make it shorter. Up here, past 12 months from 2004 to the present day, right? You can change it from the United States to worldwide or certain countries. You can change the category that you're looking into, like the Chicago Cubs from a business side, or books about the Chicago Cubs and different aspects like that. You can change it to Google Shopping or YouTube searches, like Google Shopping, or people looking for Chicago Cubs apparel, like hats or shirts and stuff like that. So let's do in the past 4 hours, because opening day today. So obviously the Cubs are a lot higher than, so you can compare stuff, but the Cubs, since today's opening day, I don't know when the opening day is for the White Sox, but anyway, so this is the interest over time for the Chicago Cubs. And then you can break it down even further. So you can break it down. This right here breaks it down by interest by state. So it looks like everywhere in the U.S. except Maine, Rhode Island, and New Hampshire, the Cubs are way more popular than the Sox. So if there are any Sox fans out there, I'm sorry, but you're not going to find any friends like you or any people who like the Sox until you go to Maine for some reason. Don't know why, but apparently people in Maine are fans of the Sox. And so you can break it down by state. They call it sub-region. You can break it down by city. So mainly, obviously, Chicago is where the Cubs and the Sox are most popular. And if you break it down by city, then it'll show you right here certain areas in Chicago what the split is. So in Orland Park, there are 52% of Chicago Cubs fans, or at least people who are searching the Chicago Cubs versus people who search the Sox. So you can break it down by sub-region, you can break it down by city, and then you can break it down by metro. I don't really know what metro means. I think it's like certain areas that are like densely populated. So, but anyway, you can break it down in a number of ways. And then it breaks it down into specifics, like by Chicago White Sox and then by Chicago Cubs, like where is the interest coming from? And then one of the coolest parts when we go into search engine optimization is the related queries. So after typing in the Chicago Cubs, somebody types in, another term, the Chicago Cubs schedule 2020 printable, so you can understand where people are going or similar things that people are typing in, so that when you pay for certain keywords on Google, because what you need to do to get your website up until the top of the first page of Google is you need to have the most related keywords to whatever somebody typed in, and you need to pay for that privilege. So when you pay for specific keywords, you can figure out what the best keywords are for you. So if I'm the Chicago Cubs and I want my website to come up at the very top, what I want to pay for is I want to pay for, Chicago Cubs schedule and, 2020. And if that comes up, if people type in schedule and Cubs together, then ideally, since I'm paying for it, my website would come up first. Now, there are a lot of other factors that we'll talk about later in later classes that go into getting your website up to the very top. But this is very helpful for you to understand what people are looking up. So you're probably not going to need, you're definitely not going to need this for the website that you're making, but for understanding your consumer profile and for understanding who you want to sell to and who has the most interest in what you're selling, it'll be very useful to look up the subregions for whatever you're selling. So if you're looking up, let's remove this and say you just want to look up I know Alex is making a taqueria and he wants to know where to sell. Well,
Not a taqueria, by the way.
What?
I'm just selling salsa, not tacos.
what are you selling? One more time?
Salsa.
Oh, okay. It was a salsa. So let's change this to salsa.
Salsa music.
So apparently the most popular place for salsa is in Kansas for some reason. People in Kansas love their salsa. So, so when you look this stuff up, what you can do is you can understand where the most interest is for your product by subregion, by city, by metro. Like I said, you can understand where people are, how much interest they have, and then you can also look up related stuff. So people seem to like corn salsa, right? And so you can understand what exactly your consumer is looking for. Anyway, I'll do one more thing because we're about to run out of time. So the last one that we talked about was the U.S. Census Bureau. And the Census Bureau is very helpful for demographic data. So if you just look up data on Chicago, it brings up, because the census, like we said, is mandatory, it brings up everything. So if you're looking for population, if you're looking for, when we're talking about our target audience, if you're looking for a specific age group, a specific race, characteristics, housing, pretty much everything you could want in terms of demographics is here on the U.S. Census Bureau. So it's very helpful. I think, is it data? Yeah. Data USA is also very helpful and makes it more interesting to look at. So I should probably put this up on that site, but this is also really nice to see because it breaks everything down in a very clear way, visualizing it and all that. So yeah, I'll put this in the site. This is also very nice to use, and you can also compare cities. So if you find a certain city that you want to sell in, or two certain cities, then you can add a comparison, like let's say Milwaukee. And what it'll do is it'll pull up a comparison between the two cities. I don't know why I put it on. But anyway, that is all I got for you today. I hope that was helpful and a good use of the last 15 minutes of class. If any of that was confusing, again, we can talk about it in office hours if you want after we finish up with the websites. Or you could reach out to me by email if you're confused on how to do your market research. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. And I wish you luck with all of your demographic and psychographic research you have to do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
Thank you.